Hey Queens, welcome back to the channel. This is Sarah speaking. Today we have a new video on Hills of Her Story. The character of today is Marie Antoinette, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Imagine being 14 years old and getting shipped to another country, in this case France, saying goodbye to your mom and everything you know so far. That was her. Today we're gonna dive deep into her life, the drama, the crisis, from the dresses to the most difficult situations that she had to go through. If you ever feel judged by the way you talk, the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, this story is going to speak to you. Picture this. In 1755 in Austria, Vienna, was born Maria Antoinette. She was one of the 16 children of their mother, the Queen and Empress Maria Theresa. She was a total boss that was raising 16 children while also managing an entire empire. Life for Marie Antoinette in the Austrian palace was nothing like she was going to experience later on in France. It was obviously strict. Her mom and obviously the society had expectations for her on how she was supposed to behave, her manners, her education, and so on. However, nothing will compare to what she will encounter later on in France. Her mother had one big dream: marrying all of her daughters to royal. Here's the thing. Marie Antoinette was the youngest and she was also the prettiest. So she got the biggest prize, but also the highest expectations. She got France. At the age of 14, she barely spoke French, and also she didn't have a lot of contact with the world outside of Austria. In May 1770, Mary was 14 years old, and Louis, who was her future husband, was 15. Even though there was a lot of pressure and expectations from both sides, it is said that Marie Antoinette had a very, good expectation about the future. She was thinking about it like it was going to be a fairy tale at the end of the day. She wanted to be in love. She wanted to have a happy life. So she thought that that's what she was going to get. And for the most part, she had a very optimistic attitude into the scenario. Then it finally comes the wedding day. It is said that for the wedding was around 5,000 guests. It was a huge wedding. And of course, it was very beautiful. Her dress was absolutely fantastic. Everything was like a dream. But then it came the wedding night. And of course, back in the day, there was high expectations about the wedding day. But we have to remember, these two were basically kids. So nothing happens. But the real drama will be the morning after. When she wakes up, the palace is an absolute jungle that at the same time is pretty organized. It is said that it had around 700 rooms and 2,000 courtiers. The entire time she had people staring at her, looking at her, judging her, having expectations for her. It is said that in her very first letters back home, she wrote, "I am the most unhappy woman in the world." Imagine for a girl at such a young age to feel like that. Even though in theory, she is a very powerful person, the amount of power that the system had over her was insane. Because the thing is, from the moment she woke up to the moment she fell asleep, she had people with a total schedule telling her what she had to do, where she had to go. There was a protocol for every single thing. It is said that there was even an occasion where a duchess and a princess were fighting each other over who was going to lend her the dresses for her to wear. So naturally, this is a situation that she wasn't used to, and little by little, she will feel more and more pressure and more tired by all of the standards that she had to follow. At that time, Marie was pretty much the ultimate fashion influencer of her time. The problem is that this was the only area that she really had control about, and it was pretty much her way to escape. in a society and in a world where you had so many expectations, so many protocols, so many rules that you need to follow, so many things that are outside of your control and that you don't even have a voice to speak about, fashion was that only piece of thing that she had that she will have a little bit of control of, and she will be able to make it her own. Because remember, the marriage wasn't going so great either. It is said that they spent actually years before actually having, the marital act, and that it wasn't very easy. And to be fair, I don't blame them, because they had an arranged marriage and they were kids and they had so much pressure. But just to put ourselves a little bit in her shoes, it wasn't really easy. It's like yes, you are in a palace, but it also feels like you're in a prison. So the marriage years were pretty awkward at the beginning, especially. And they had a lot of pressure from the society at the time, because it took them around 7 years for them to even have kids. And obviously, when you are in a position of power at that time, all the pressure was mostly on the women, because the whole point or the whole purpose of women at the time was to be able to carry an heir. And her not being able to do that, or her not doing that and taking so long, was definitely something that, besides her being an outsider because she wasn't French and they didn't really like the way she was, that was also something that added even more pressure into her. She would write her mom letters and letters, crying out of the frustration that she was feeling. But eventually, they did end up having kids. They had 4 of them. But on top of that, her life had a couple of controversies, because, again, she had a lot of people against her because she was from Austria and she wasn't having kids and all of this. So in 1785, she had like a big controversy over a necklace that somebody gifted to her that she didn't ask for, and then they were saying that she was having an affair with the person, and that not only she was extravagant, but that she was also unfaithful to her husband. So around that time is when the lie or the myth of her saying let them eat cake came up, but it was all a mixture of what was happening around her at the time. And of course, not to say that the people, let's say the average person in France, had no reason to be mad at her or the system, because the situation in the country, the economical situation, was very bad. There was a lot of people hungry, there was a lot of homeless, there was just a lot of crazy things going on. So imagine, like the average person is struggling to have something to eat or even a roof over their head. And then you have these people who are in power who have so much money that they are completely out of touch with reality. And I feel like even today, even though, societies are different, but when there's so much inequality, it's easy and understandable for people to feel that way about the elites or the people that are higher up. The thing with Marie Antoinette, though, is that she was in the elites, but it's not like she held a lot of power or a lot of, say within the decisions that were taking place in the country. But the damage was already done. And later on, when the French Revolution exploded, she and her husband were forced to move to Paris, and she was also witness on how one of her best friends, a princess, was executed. And at the time, it is said that she wrote letters to everybody. She wrote secret letters to some of her siblings and other people that had power, so that they could, take them as refugees or send some sort of help. But nothing really happened. In one of the instances, they were actually able to escape, but they got caught, and eventually they were put into arrest. And then everybody was separated. They separated her from her son, and she had a trial that it is said it was pretty unfair, because even though they accused her of overspending their resources, which it might have been true, they also accused her of having incest with her son, which it was a lie, according to most historians. And also, they made up some other rumors about her of, accusing her of treason and some other stuff. So by the time she is sentenced, it is said that she kept herself together and calm the entire time. Also, it is said that she wrote a letter to her sister where she said, "I am calm. I hope to show the same firmness. I embrace you with all my heart." So these were allegedly some of her last words. By October 16 of 1793, she's put into the cart. They cut her hair, and eventually they tie her hands, and she is executed. Her last words were, "Pardon me, sir." And that was it. That's how she dies at the age of 37 years old. So, to conclusion of the story, she was obviously not perfect. She was born into a very out of touch world, which it isn't really her fault. Are there many things that probably she could have done differently to maybe gain some sort of respect or, better attention or view from the public eye? Maybe, but in reality, she was mostly victim of the entire scenario that was going on in France at the time. And I think this can help us to understand that sometimes history and sometimes things that happen within people of power are not as simple or as black and white as we see it from our perspective. Sometimes they're being pressured behind. Sometimes there's plenty of things that are happening that are outside of their control. And I think it is important to remember that, because sometimes it's easy for us to judge people that are in power or that are in higher rank positions than both of us. But sometimes people are just doing what they can with what they have. And that's okay to admit. Not everybody that is high up from us is necessarily bad and evil. Sometimes they just happen to end up there because of their families or because of external situations. But I guess one thing we can definitely learn from her is that even though she had a very, very sad life that she wasn't happy with, she was able to find some sort of escape through something she loved. In this case, was fashion. And I think as we have seen with other stories, sometimes our passions and the things that we love are the things that can keep us together when life is tough and when things are not going very well. It is also a lesson to remember that everything in life is not permanent, and things can absolutely shift from one side to another. Probably when she was growing up, she never thought that she will end up being executed like that. Like, she went from having a super privileged, nice life in a palace to being executed like that. So I think it's also a lesson to just stay yourself humble when you are in a very high situation or a very good position, or when things are very nice for you, because life can change in just an instant. And when that happens, we will always want to make sure that we appreciate it when we had it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoy this content. Please, if you liked the story, make sure you comment and let me know what you think, if I missed anything, or if there's anybody else that you would like me to speak about on later videos. Thanks again for being here. This is Sarah from Hills of Her Story, and see you on the next one. Bye-bye.